Well, hey, howdy, hi. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch, and today I'm going to be talking about the book A Hexing Holiday. So this book is an ARC from Book Sirens, my favorite, of course. This is A Hexing Holiday by Nicole Jamieson, and this is actually the first book for her new Spooky Seasons series. This was actually released on October 1st of this year, and this is 318 pages, so it is a true novel. As usual, let's start with a synopsis. She is the daughter of the Skeleton King. He is the heir to the Santa Claus title. Together, they must figure out who is targeting the holiday realm of Haven. Dozens have been killed, the assailants unknown. Now, in a show of solidarity between the lands, a marriage has been arranged between Blair and Nick. Blair is driven to protect her people at any cost. Nick is a notorious partier in search of his next high. Together, they must uncover the reason behind the massacres, or Haven will fall. Can the pair put centuries of bitterness aside and discover the culprits, or will Haven be plunged into destruction and despair? I also put the whole map together, and I'm sure that it looks great in like a print version, but the digital one is obviously broken up on 2 pages. So this whole place is called the Haven, and it just has the different sections for the different holidays. So what I assumed going into this is that each land will be its own book at some point, but we are starting with Halloween and Christmas. Jumping right in, this will be a chapter by chapter breakdown with full spoilers. We meet Jack and Chris in the prologue. Chris meets Jack, or asked to meet him, to discuss some recent murders. Some important things to note is that they're not actually friends, they're more just like civil. Chris is the one who actually called the meeting. Start at the beginning and go from there. He nodded weakly and licked his lips before his icy blue eyes fixated on my face. It started about a year ago, perhaps before then, but we weren't aware of it. The city has grown quite large in the last century. It's difficult to keep track of everything and everyone all the time. A strange problem to have. I'm not sure how that involves me. The statement was bland. I disliked the reminder that his city grew even larger as my village slowly became smaller. Then let me speak, he shouted and leaned forward, a crazed look rooted in his eyes. I won't pretend that we don't patrol our borders. We certainly do, on most sides. We aren't as vigilant on the border we share with you, however. Maybe that was our mistake. I stared at him, suddenly uneasy. We know about the patrols. We do them often as well. He turned a pale shade of ghostly white. Then perhaps you already know. Know what? I know you're scaring me a bit. It wasn't far from the truth. I'd never seen Chris like this. He was normally an extremely jolly man. About the murders. His eyes searched my face. For what, I wasn't sure. I blinked at him, wondering if I'd heard him correctly. Murders? He nodded vigorously. Yes. So many of them we've begun to lose count. My mouth fell open in stunned silence. Murders? While we weren't immortal beings, at least not most of us, death itself seemed to be a rarity in our world. But murders were unheard of. For so many to happen that it was hard to keep track was nearly impossible. Jack is stunned, but then realizes that Chris called him there to feel him out, and Jack calls it out. You think I did this? Chris says that he may respect Jack as a person, but of all the realms, Halloween rivals Christmas the closest, making them the greatest threat. Jack says that his people don't kill Haven residents, but mortals are fair game apparently. Chris then suggests that they join their houses through marriage, and Jack is totally thrown off guard because what? The two realms don't hate each other per se, but they certainly aren't friendly. There is this story that they talk about that happened long ago with a forbidden love, very Romeo and Juliet, but no one knows what happened to the pair, whether they lived happily ever after or were murdered. They have this brief exchange. These murders weaken Haven as a whole. It shows everyone that we are vulnerable to death. I bit my lip, uttering my next words. It also means someone from Haven has a way to kill us, a trait I thought only humans possessed. Chris then reins the conversation back to the marriage. He wants to unite the two most powerful realms, make the murderers think twice about crossing the Haven as a whole. They both agree that their children, Blair and Nicholas, will be unhappy to be forced into a marriage, but that there's just their cross to bear as heirs to a realm. I broke the silence, startling Chris. When will the wedding take place? 4 months from now in the spring. As you know, this month is my busy season. We will have it here at the cabin once things have calmed down. That gives you plenty of time to sort your affairs and make the necessary arrangements. She will come to live in the city. I let out a heavy sigh. An arranged marriage and a move, she won't like this. Change is never easy. She'll adapt and may even grow to like it there, he said hopefully. Chris then leaves, and Jack stays to kind of think over everything that he's just been told. And I already have several issues, so sorry to be a bitch, it's just who I am. So, 1, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. Obviously, it wasn't exactly a secret, but I don't necessarily like the involvement of the King of Halloween in this story. Like, there are so many other notable Halloween characters. Like, I would have loved a Stingy Jack reference, for instance. It just feels like a cheap move to sell more books, which I understand is the goal, but I want more creativity than that. Two, I don't understand how the Haven residents are killed. So they can't kill each other, apparently, but humans can kill them. But apparently that also isn't true because there's been more than 50 murders in Christmas. I'm just so confused as to how it all works and how they can't be killed. Or maybe it's just that they don't kill each other, but I don't know. I don't know. So 3, the mayor's thing doesn't seem like it benefits Halloween at all. And it also seems like this isn't something like spur of the moment, but rather something Chris has been thinking about for so long. And he says 4 months from then, which I assume we're in December. I assume we're in December, either November or December, somewhere in there. It's not made clear. But 4 months from then. If he'd really just thought about it, or it's some recent development, then how are they able to make it work on such short notice when literally part of the planning takes place during the busy season? Then there's the fact that Blair has to move to Christmas. Why? I get that the idea is that Nicholas will take over, but as far as we know, Blair is an only child, so she is also an heir. So why is it automatically assumed that she will have to move? Because she's a woman? Because Halloween is less important? I genuinely don't understand how that decision was reached, nor why Jack just instantly was okay with sending his daughter away, especially to a place that is clearly dangerous. And this is only the prologue, so buckle up. Chapter 1 is in Blair's perspective. We meet her when she's buying pumpkins, but not for herself. Today's pumpkins were for my best friend in the realm, Esther. She wasn't from the village. Her land was southeast of us. The land of Easter was a ridiculously bright place where green grassy hills stretched for miles. And Esther from Easter, could we be less on the nose? Halloween Village was a darker place, where the sky was in a near constant cloudy state. The sun would sometimes peek out in the summer, then hide all winter long. Today was a pleasant spring day. A few clouds were spread across the blue-gray sky. Villagers were out enjoying the nice weather. As I made my way down the main street in town, witches, wizards, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, and other ghoulish creatures mixed and mingled together in peace. This land was a safe place for them to exist. No one truly knew how old this particular land was, but it was one of the oldest in Haven. I knew everyone here. For the most part, we were a close-knit community. It was rare for anything to stay a secret for long. I didn't mind. I had nothing I needed to hide from anyone. Well, besides my clothes from my little sister Amelia. I do like the info on the village, but I was a little confused because there was no mention of a time skip, but it doesn't seem like it's winter there right now. We also learned that she has a sibling, so really, why does it have to be Blair that's married off? Because an alliance does not have to be between a first heir. It can be between anybody in the line. So why is Blair having to give up her right to rule when she should just be able to choose what happens? Anyway, she is now trying to find a portal of sorts. They were on finding a particular tree within a horde of them. This one didn't seem out of the ordinary, nor did it stand out in any way, but it held a special kind of magic within its leaves. Each leaf contained enough energy to open a single portal to another land in the realm of Haven. It was a quick and easy way to get around. At times it was the only safe option for long-distance travel, but not everyone could harness such power. Personally, I knew of only a handful of individuals, including myself, who had the ability. Not even my father or sister could do it, or at least not reliably. Amelia had only successfully done it once a few years ago. After multiple failed attempts, she stopped trying. And this is just setting her up to be uber powerful, since she's apparently more powerful than her father, who's the second most powerful being in the Haven. She goes to Easterland, and we learn that Esther is the heir to Easterland, her father being Edward, who is the Easter Bunny, but also a man whore apparently. Then we get this info. The factory was where all the Easter eggs are produced for the yearly holiday, but not in the way people thought they were traditionally made. They didn't have thousands of chickens that laid eggs that they later dyed with various colors to hide for children. No, they were all laid, not by Edward, but by his daughters. The ability to produce fun, colorful eggs was solely reserved for the women in the Easter Bunny bloodline. We also learn what Blair looks like, and it's not how you would expect Jack and Sally's child to look. I was certainly the odd man out in Easter with my pale skin and dark brown hair that complemented my deep brown eyes. We are to assume she is the daughter of a literal skeleton and a Bride of Frankenstein-esque creature, yet Blair is just pale with brown hair, so she doesn't resemble Jack or Sally at all. Esther comes home and brings Blair inside while she changes out of her work clothes. Blair asks why she was wearing work clothes since she normally wears some more girly outfits, and Esther says it's because she's been working extra hours since she needs the money. Blair is taken aback because she didn't know this, but Esther changes the subject and asks how Amelia is. She actually just started a job, and that was cool, I guess. Apparently Amelia is very powerful in her own right and will be a nature witch, they think. Moving back to Esther, she had been visiting Halloween Village. Don't even get me started on how they have the nightmare characters from Halloween Town in Halloween Village. She has been visiting less and less with all of her overtime hours, and the visit is cut short, and Blair returns to Halloween Village. She is walking home, and we actually learn that her previous house had burned down and that the culprit was never caught. Most fingers pointed towards Christmas City are only rivals in terms of power, which we already knew, and we learned this in the prologue, which was literally just the previous chapter. And I would love, look me in the face, authors, stop spoon-feeding us shit. Readers are not stupid, okay? Look me in the eyes. She gets inside of her home, and her father scares the shit out of her by just standing in the dark like a weirdo, before telling her that they have to discuss her future and the future of the village. Chapter 2, Blair goes with her father into his office and is very nervous. He's smoking a cigarette while he prepares to have this conversation, while she is thinking in her head about him. He was a powerful man, striking fear into the hearts of many. Jack, the Skeleton King, as he was known to everyone. But everyone knows him as the Pumpkin King, and this is how the book synopsis has him labeled, so it's not a huge deal. It's just kind of annoying as this inconsistency, and I'm probably the only one who's bothered by this. We also finally know why she's been harping that it's springtime. It's been nagging at me for a while, I just don't know how to say it out loud. My eyebrows scrunched up. I don't understand. I know you don't. He looked around the room uncomfortably before he sat in the chair and let out a frustrated sigh. I truly don't know where to start. I played with my hands awkwardly. Start at the beginning, then. He nodded, his eyes staring at the flames dancing in the fireplace. A few months ago, I was invited to a meeting with someone unexpected. Things were brought to my attention that I couldn't ignore. He explains about the murders, and that not just Christmas has been affected, apparently. He then drops the bombshell about the marriage, but doesn't specify, and she's like, "You're getting married? Since when have you been dating someone?" He then explains that it's her wedding, and she is rightfully horrified. She doesn't ask why it can't be Amelia, to my great annoyance. Her father tells her that tomorrow she will be shipped off to marry a man she doesn't know away from her own home. She has so many emotions in the moment and runs out of the house and straight into the forest. She is intending to use the portal to go to Easter, but because of all the thoughts of Christmas City, she ends up portaling there instead. She sees the cabin in the woods and walks towards it, but ends up falling in a deep pit. The sight of what is inside makes her hysterical, and after several hours she manages to get out of the hole and portal home. When she gets into her house, her father immediately rushes to her, and she is just covered in blood. Apparently, there was about a dozen bodies in the hole she fell into. She explains that some of the bodies were of people she recognized and that she didn't mean to go there. He asks if she can portal several people there, and she says that she can try. She first goes to take a shower and pack her bag, but not to move to Christmas. She intends or plans to turn off to the human realm. She goes back downstairs, and there are dozens of people in the house, her father telling them what had happened. Now, a total of 5 people are going to be going to this mass grave: Blair, Jack, Ulrich, who's a werewolf, Hazel, who's a witch, and Frank, a scientist, who I guarantee is meant to be Professor Finkelstein, which I hate, since that is Sally's abusive creator. Chapter 3, Blair takes everyone going to Christmas City to the portal tree and grabs several leaves this time because she can't guarantee that she can take everyone at once, so might have to make several trips with one person at a time. She does manage to take everyone through with no issues, though. Jack actually knows where to find the cabin since that's where he met Chris all those months ago. Also, he shrugged and ran his hand through his short hair. So, it's at this point that I realized the author is literally just using his name and created a whole new character using a well-known name, which is absolutely stupid. This character could have still been the Pumpkin King. And maybe he was the great-grandson or some shit of Jack Skellington, just maybe with a different name. He didn't need to be the actual Jack Skellington. But then she just gave him characteristics that don't exist on the real character. Rant aside, Blair doesn't want to look at the body pit, so instead she goes in the cabin to look around. But even better, we now learn that this isn't Jack Skellington at all, it's Jack Hollow, and they are hollows. Which is, again, just stupid. It needed to be made much clearer earlier, who these people were rather than trying to draw people in with the thought that this is the true Pumpkin King or Skeleton King. I'm clearly very annoyed, but I'm gonna try to harp less on this shit. She ends up falling asleep while everyone is identifying bodies. Jack wakes her up and tells her that they did identify their residents and will send word to Chris and that he needs to send people to identify the rest of the bodies. He then tells Blair it's time for her to portal them home. When she does, she stays behind in the forest while the rest of the group leaves. She then portals herself to Easter to tell Esther everything. After this talk, she suddenly gets relatively on board with marrying Nicholas, which can I just say, I still don't understand the point. If both of your people are getting murdered, can't you just regularly work together to stop them? How does getting married more ensure that the culprit is caught? She is thinking that if they get married, then the Kringles will have to protect her village, but they can't even protect their own people. When she gets home, there are already people from Christmas City there, and some of them are meeting with Jack already, so Blair sent to the office to join the conversation. Blair accepts her fate and tells him that she will need to pack before she's ready to go, and then goes to do that, crying once more, which is fair. She then takes her stuff downstairs and gets ready for the several-day sleigh ride to Christmas City. Chapter 4 is when we meet Nicholas, who is clearly a shitbag. He is woken up by a pounding on his hotel room door, and he is very hungover and answers the door. It's currently 7 p.m. He was supposed to have a meeting at 9 a.m. that same day. He is told to get his shit together and come out. He goes back to his room to get changed, but he rather just sits on his bed next to his latest conquest, whose name we don't even know. Nicholas finally comes downstairs, pissy as hell about having to actually do any work. He doesn't want to be the next Santa Claus, which actually made me wonder if this whole getting married thing was to strictly make sure that Christmas City had a ruler at all, even if it came from an outsider. Which again, how does that benefit Halloween Village? He is told that he will be taken to a meeting at his father's office, which he thinks is weird because he's never there for meetings. Also, can I just say that this chapter is way more boring than Blair's is, but also maybe I just like her more as a character. Anyway, Chris gives Nicholas the news about the murders, which absolutely throws him for a loop, of course, before he drops the "you're getting married" news on him. Chapter 5, and we are once more with Nicholas. Joy! This time, he awakes hungover as hell, and now is surrounded by several people who he drank with, did drugs with, had sex with. He wakes up, though, next to Crystal Rose, who is from Valentine Land. They are lovers, apparently, and they both agree that Nicholas would never love Blair or even really want to be near her unless it's absolutely necessary, because he loves Crystal. They end up spending many more days together, drunk and high, until Elm, who is Nicholas's guard, wakes him up with a bucket of ice water. Also, just to note, both realms have these sayings. For Halloween, it's ghouls and ghosts, and for Christmas, it's jingle bells, which is absolutely fantastic. But it seems like they're kind of placeholders for either curse words or some form of Jesus Christ, which is immediately contradicted, though, when people say fuck in the same sentence. Anyway, Nicholas is all but dragged from his hotel room, Crystal trying very hard to get him to stay. He then gets into a car with his father, and they go off towards Christmas City. Once there, they go to the original workshop, not the new one that operates today. Nicholas is hesitant but gets out of the car and walks with his father into the building. Chris explains to his son that he too was just like him when he was younger. He didn't want to be Santa Claus. Until one day, while he was in the human realm, doing God knows what, he suddenly felt a rush of power and he had to return home. It turns out that his father had died, which is when the power is transferred to the heir. He tells Nicholas this to kind of tell him that regardless of what he wants, he can't escape his fate. So Nicholas has little choice but to agree to marry Blair, so he does just that. Chapter 6, we are back to Blair, thankfully. She has been in an apartment in Christmas City for a month, basically waiting for Nicholas to grow a set and stop hiding with his lover in the human realm. But she has this perfect view of the Christmas tree in the town center. I was near the city center. The wall of oversized windows in my living room overlooked the massive decorated tree that marked the very middle of the center. It was a permanent fixture. It had been growing in the spot for centuries, though they changed the ornaments and decorations whenever a new Santa emerged. The lights in the tree never turned off. They represented the life force of whichever Kringle was currently in charge. And I actually really liked this little bit of information. It sets up a potentially very sad scene in which Chris dies and neither Blair or Nicholas witnesses the lights in the tree suddenly go out, but I like that little tidbit. She is people watching from her window when she sees a black car pull up and out steps Kris Kringle, who she has yet to meet. She then sees Nicholas and is immediately smitten because he's just too cute, apparently. But she is startled when Winter, her personal guard, shows up, and she is able to tell Blair that that is Nicholas Kringle and that he's a mess. You think he's doing the honorable thing, sacrificing his happiness for the greater good. Disappointment flooded over me. I looked out the window, trying to give myself a moment to process what she was hinting at. Why is he doing it then? His father didn't give him the option to say no, she said bitterly. So he's being forced? I tried my best not to sound disgusted. In a way, yes. Nicholas isn't the man you rely on. What is he the man for? She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Her silence fed into my growing alarm. She finally answered, Depends on who you ask. The local girls of this city, and those of the human realm, would say he's the guy you call for a good time. Anyone else would tell you that it's his one and only talent. I scoffed in disbelief. So he's good for a roll in the haystack and nothing else. I'm afraid so. My head shook. I was expecting him to at least share in my beliefs regarding the shitty situation, that we would work together to fix everything. Blair is regretful that she is supposed to be marrying a known playboy, but she also realizes that she literally only needs to stay with him until the murderer is caught, then she can divorce him and go home. Which again, why is she marrying him? If all that needs to happen is they team up to catch the killer. Blair has been isolated in this apartment with only Winter and a chef coming by now and then, and she also can't even send letters to her family. She also keeps asking about the wedding, since she expected it to happen by now, as we were literally told at the beginning it would happen by now. This girl has literally just been sitting there for a month, twiddling her thumbs, waiting for people to get their shit together, but she's just randomly surprised when a ton of people come in, and Winter announces, it's time for the wedding! Blair barely has time to process the news before she is pushed into a chair for hair and makeup, and then she's walked to the bedroom to put on the wedding dress. Blair is actually surprised when she pulls out a black wedding dress from the garment bag. Her father had actually had the dress made years prior for her to wear to a wedding that, wouldn't be arranged. But she is still happy that she gets to keep a piece of who she is, and she changes into the dress. And the dress is stunning, and she looks beautiful, of course. Chapter 7. Blair is expecting a car to pick her up, but to her dismay, a sleigh pulls up. Apparently, it's tradition, so she has no other choice. Blair asks where the wedding will be, and they tell her that it isn't the traditional location since Halloween residents are to attend as well, but also because this would be the perfect time to attack, so the less people that know where it is being held, the better. When they arrive, Blair has to admit the place does look pretty good. It's split pretty solidly down the middle. On one side, Christmas colors and decorations. On the other side, Halloween colors and decorations. Her father and sister come up to greet her, which makes her cry. They are quickly escorted away, though, as the wedding is literally beginning in that second. The ceremony itself is super short, but she's, forced into this blood pact with him because basically that joins them. So, sounds like divorce is not an option. Now there's Vlad. Vlad is mentioned in a previous chapter, but he's not a super important character or anything, but he's here, and he comes up again. The last person to speak with me was Vlad. His eyes bore into mine, he reached out his hand, and I put mine out to shake his, but he turned it over, placing a gentle kiss on top. He pulled me close, his voice softer than usual. I hope you know what you're doing. You are now deep in the viper's den. There will be those who aren't so keen on you being in the city. I won't give you advice on how to make your union better with the boy, but I will offer you this. Don't back down. Do not waver in front of them. You are more powerful than you know, and if it takes you telling them or showing them, do it. He pulled back, and his dark eyes locked on mine. And I don't mind the cryptic advice, and it seems like he genuinely cares for her, but this is advice that she should listen to. But also this guy, I feel like there should be more of a storyline, and that we know who he is, because it's just as it stands, some weird guy just told her she's in danger and can't trust anyone in her new home, and it's kind of terrifying. Anyway, the reception is boring, but Jack tells her that she can't come home. It's safer for her to stay in Christmas until the killer is caught, which she isn't happy about, but accepts, because I don't understand how it's safer when they also have citizens being murdered in the dozens. She finally meets Chris, who tells her that they will breakfast together soon and have a proper conversation. And then everyone leaves, which leaves Blair and Nicholas alone for the first time, and boy, oh boy, do I hate Nicholas. He stood on his side of the aisle, not quite watching me. I faced him. So, I muttered awkwardly, we're married now. A strange laugh escaped my lips. Yeah. I walked over, putting my hand out to him. I'm Blair. He finally glanced at me, staring at the outstretched hand before looking me head to toe. An air of disgust took hold of his features. Look, I get you want to save your shitty little village, and I did this for my father's sake, but this? He gestured to me and him with his hands. This isn't going to happen. I'm not your friend, not your husband, and I'm not going to be. I dropped my hand as the fake smile I'd plastered on my face for the last few hours vanished. I didn't expect us to be husband and wife. Trust me, I wouldn't stoop that low. But as for friends, I don't see why we couldn't do that. Because I don't want to. He spat venomously. I have enough friends as it is. He turned and started to walk away. Maybe they should teach you some fucking manners, Nick, I shouted at his back. He turned and threw a glare in my direction before storming off. Asshole, I whispered under my breath. And it was at this moment that I started to really hope the author does not make them fall in love. Like, please let Blair have a better love interest, and let Nicholas go be a man whore with whoever the fuck he wants to. However, this would be a real enemies to lover. Side tangent. For that trope to actually be done properly, the characters have to hate each other at first. Genuinely hate each other. Not that secretly pining for one another or the being like, dang, what a smoke show. If you weren't my enemy, I'd totally hit that. That is just the other person being a love interest, period. That's not enemies to lovers. Chapter 8. Blair is allowed to stay living in the apartment alone, thankfully, but after about a week, her presence is requested for dinner with Chris and Nicholas, which she isn't pleased about. But she really doesn't have any other choice. During the car ride, Blair learns that you don't retire as Santa Claus. That when Nicholas becomes Santa, it will be because Chris has died. This is not how it works in Halloween, so she's really taken aback by how depressing that is. She arrives at the penthouse and it's just Chris who welcomes her in and thanks her truly for all that she's done to help them. Nicholas then stumbles in with Crystal on his arm. Chris is mad, but Blair steps in and says, hey, this is my life, right? Neither of us did this for love. Which doesn't really calm the situation, but does make Chris drop it. Very well, he said before stomping off. I went to follow him when an angry Nick stopped me in my tracks. You didn't need to butt in. I whipped my head around. Excuse me? You had no right to interrupt me and my father's conversation. The words become slurred the more upset he got. I could hardly understand him when he snapped at me. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you enjoyed being yelled at. Next time, I'll let dinner grow cold so he can rip you a new one. It was bitter sarcasm. The woman's eyes narrowed into slits. Don't talk to him like that. I leveled a nasty glare at her, not interested in what she had to say. I'll speak to him however I want. In case you're not reading the room, let me put this into perspective for both of you. I am Nick's wife. You might be dangling on his arm, but you're not married to him. I am, and that gives me the right to tell him the hard truth. And if you don't like it, I looked at both of them, then you can both eat shit for all I care. I turned, not wanting to hear anything they had to say, and went to find Chris. My words were brazen, but I had kept what Vlad said in my mind. I had to stand up for myself. It was the only way to survive here. I could already tell that his little girlfriend would be an issue. Not personally how I would have phrased everything, but fair enough. The dinner goes fine, awkward, with Crystal hand-feeding Nick his whole dinner like a weirdo. When Blair leaves, Crystal gets in the same elevator, calls her Halloween trash, and basically tells her that she may be his wife, but she'll never be anything meaningful to him. Blair calls her a second-rate tramp and gets off the elevator, though it's very clear Crystal won this interaction. Chapter 9, Blair is back in her apartment and life is not going great for her. Crystal is taken to petty means to get Blair mad, leaving trash on her doorstep, getting others to comment that she's trash or she's out and about, even having people assault her, throwing stuff at her when she leaves the apartment. So she doesn't leave the apartment. She does, however, finally get some mail. One letter from her sister that says she misses her and could use a sisterly talk, and Blair asks Winter if she can arrange for that somehow. She says that she will try her best. Another letter was from Esther, her best friend, who didn't attend the wedding. The letter literally just says, congrats on the wedding, and that's it. Blair is rightfully upset, but Winter tells her that sometimes that just happens with friendships, and that maybe some kind words back will let Esther know that she still cares about her, despite the new distance. The last letter is just an old parchment copy of their family tree, which Blair feels strangely about because there's no info on her mother, but the way that her and her sister are marked at the bottom of the tree makes it kind of just seem like the message is that her family tree stops with them, like in a threatening way. After getting this weird letter, she ends up having really bad nightmares, but is actually awoken in the middle of one urgently. Her presence is requested in the city center, so she quickly gets dressed and heads out. The whole reason she is called out was for Chris to announce to his citizens that Blair is their guest, and if they have anything nasty to say, they can say it at home or face some nasty consequences. He also announces that there will be a ball held to honor the marriage, and after that, Chris takes Blair and Nicholas aside, at which point Nicholas freaks out, saying that it's bullshit to hold a ball, even though it's literally tradition to hold a ball for newly married couples, and then blames Blair, who had no idea this was even a thing. A vile grin spread across his mouth. You're trying to get in good with my father, trying to poison him against me. I shook my head in disbelief. I don't need to do anything of the sort. You do that well enough on your own. Wow, that is bold of you. Is it, though? I mean, look at you. You can't even stand straight. You're slurring your words, and every time I've seen you around your father, you're an embarrassment and make a jackass out of yourself. I don't need to poison him. You already make him think you're a complete joke. Nick got in my face, pointing his finger at me. You don't know a damn thing about me or my father. We were perfectly fine before you came along. I slapped his finger out of my face with as much force as I could muster. Anger swirled through my veins, and I wanted nothing more than to slap the shit out of the man-child who tried to accuse me of influencing his father. I seriously doubt that. I've heard of your reputation, and it started long before I stepped foot inside the city. You want someone to blame? Blame your damn self. He went to put his finger back in my face, but I pushed him away forcefully. He stumbled and fell to the ground, and his eyes widened with surprise. Look at yourself. You can barely stand up. No wonder your father is pushing for this. At least now he has someone to be proud of, unlike his embarrassment of a son. Honestly, though, I would love for her to explain to him that while he has no power until his father dies, she was born with power. See, I think that would just shut his little crybaby ass up. Or even Crystal's. Chapter 10, Blair is getting ready for the ball, and is actually getting more excited because she gets to try on dress options. The shopkeepers are trying to give them to her, but she has refused, and instead is taking her time to pick the best one, which Winter is loving, and they're both, having so much fun with this. She ends up ultimately choosing a red dress, and this is important, because when she arrives at the ball, she is the only one wearing red. The invitation specifically said red as part of the dress code, so Winter and the other guards are unsure why no one else is wearing red, and Blair is suddenly even more of an outsider and exceptionally uncomfortable with everyone looking at her, and obviously this was Crystal and Nicholas's doing. Nick and Crystal made a beeline towards me. I'm sure among all the other guests I wasn't hard to spot. His face held no emotion as his eyes scanned me. Crystal, on the other hand, looked like she was ready to burst into laughter at any moment. Why, Blair, I see someone didn't get the memo. I unfortunately did not, but still there's nothing wrong with being the center of attention. If you say so. I do, I responded simply. Aren't you supposed to be trying to fit in here? Act like you at least belong? I gave her a look. That's an interesting take. She actually appeared confused. How so? Well, you don't actually belong here either, do you? Her face fell a little. If I hadn't been staring closely at her, I wouldn't have caught the motion at all. I belong here a lot more than you do. I shrugged. It's just a dress. And reading this back, I noticed a grammatical mistake. This says quests instead of guest, and it took me a second to figure out if that was the font or not. It's not, because there are other G's in this as well. But yeah, it says other quests, not other guests. I don't know if that was intentional, and I'm just not understanding some weird Haven lingo, but I don't think it is. I think that's just a grammatical error. Luckily for Blair, Chris also didn't get the memo. My gaze was pulled from them when a man wearing a suit a few shades lighter than mine entered the room. Chris. It wasn't his famous red suit, but it had to be close. It was well tailored and fit him snugly. He came to the bottom of the stairs and glanced at his son. Disgust plastered on his face until his eyes met mine, and then he lit up with joy. He quickly joined me. I see I wasn't the only one not dressed for the occasion, he said under his breath. Yeah, but you can still get away with dressing in a red suit. Me, not so much. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. He looked down at me. I glanced up to meet his eyes. Somehow, I doubt that. Whether everyone says so or not, I think the dress fits you well. Thank you, I said at the compliment. I felt it suited me well. Another small nitpick, super close to the other one. It should be wearing a few shades lighter than my dress, not lighter than mine, since she isn't also wearing a suit. Nitpick aside, Chris has to leave her on her own, but Blair says that she'll be fine. She has Winter nearby, of course. She then gets her third cup of fruit punch for the night, and this time is from somebody new who clearly doesn't like her. But the fruit punch doesn't taste right. But before she can really consider this, Chris gets up to speak. He says that he hopes that this is a happy marriage, and then he makes them dance, which they do, and it's actually a decent dance apparently. When it ends, she is unceremoniously shoved out of the way by Crystal. She then just goes back to her position of standing on the outskirts of those who are dancing, but Crystal has something else up her sleeve. I was hit on the head with something, well, not just something, lots of somethings. A slimy texture coated my skin, and a smell so rancid it could burn nose hairs assaulted my nostrils. I took a quivering breath and looked at the floor. Understanding hit me. Trash. Piles of trash mixed with ghouls and goblins. Was that dog shit? I gagged and looked up. Standing above me, still holding the trash barrel, were two girls. One was a girl at the bar who gave me the gross punch. They both cackled with glee, and I realized they weren't the only ones. A sickly sweet laugh rang out across the floor as I looked back at Crystal. She was chuckling so hard, tears had formed in her eyes. Nick also laughed, though his was not as hearty. Across the room, I met the stunned faces of the party guests. Many of them held their hands over their mouths and noses as they tried to get away from the stench that now filled the ballroom. My throat felt like it was going to close in on me as my breath became labored. From the corner, a man in a red suit made his way towards me, but I wouldn't stay there any longer. I stepped over the piles of trash and shit on the floor and made a run for the stairs. When I almost reached them, my foot slipped out from under me and I fell hard. I looked around as tears started to flow down my cheeks. Crystal appeared, pointing her finger at me and laughing. As if it wasn't bad enough that she looks and stinks like crap, it also looks like she ate some of it too. I didn't understand what she meant. As I put my hand to my mouth, my fingers came back stained black. It hit me. The drink her friend had given me wasn't just punch. I stood up as best I could, lifting my dress, and quickly went up the stairs. Laughter continued behind me, and raised voices filled the space. Whispers and comments occupied the air, but I didn't listen to it. I made my way outside, running down the steps. Running. That's all my mind could think. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was suffocating. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I put all of my effort behind it. I pushed myself harder than I ever thought I could and ran. Ran away from the sham of a marriage, ran away from my crappy husband, ran away from Crystal and her stupid friends, ran away from everything. The night consumed me. My mind only had one word in it: faster. It felt like my legs knew where to go as I ran through the streets of the old part of the city. It didn't seem to take me long, and who knew how many dozens of people I passed. I didn't care. I just kept going until I reached my apartment building. My steps quickened. I didn't give myself the opportunity to stop for the elevator, going straight to the door where the stairs were. Up, up, up. I went up flight after flight, like demons of old were chasing me, and I hoped to outrun them. Finally, I got to my floor and ripped the door open, darting to the safety of my apartment. Once there, I made quick work of the keypad. It took a couple of tries before I could get the right code, but as soon as it turned green, I flung the door open and then slammed it shut behind me, locking it tight. In that moment, I let everything out. The tears I had been holding back, hot and wet, ran down my cheeks in rivers as sobs racked my whole body. My back slid down the door as I fell into a lump in the small entry and cried for what felt like an eternity. Which, I just don't understand how she, A, got away from her guards, but also, the guards just stood there and watched it happen and, let it happen. Chapter 11, Blair laid on the floor for a long time just crying, but she did eventually pull herself up and she got into the shower fully in her clothes. When she finally warms up a bit, she takes off her clothes and starts to scrub her skin raw, trying to get that feeling and the smell of the new memory off of her body. When Blair is done, she curls up in bed and cries. She then falls into a depression and barely leaves the bed, unless it's for food or water, and even then she does so sparingly, and she refuses to answer the door for anyone, just accepting that she will rot away in bed. Winter and Kane, who is another one of her guards, finally come in to try and get Blair up. When Winter's words don't work, Kane rips the blanket off of her instead. I shot up out of bed. "Are you out of your mind?" I yelled. "Nope. Are you out of yours?" he asked, annoyed. "What? Because I want to be left alone? I didn't realize that was a crime in the city." He rolled his eyes. "It's not for other people, but you can't just stay locked up in here for the rest of your life." "Says who? I don't see any rule book that says I can't." What happened, I admit, was not good. I'd be upset too if that happened to me, but the answer is in hiding away in this room, making it smell bad. I could feel my face turn murderous, not wanting to be reminded of the invisible stench that I carried. "Yeah, well, I'm sorry that some smells don't come out no matter how much you want them to." He crossed his arms. "That's not what I meant. It smells like armpits and feet in here." "Then I'll crack a window, okay?" "No, not okay. You have duties and other things to attend to." "Like what? I'm not important here. Never have been. Never will be. I don't even know why I'm here. I should be able to go home." "What about what you want? To let her chase you off just like that?" "It's not chasing me off. She thinks this is some fight over some guy that is a complete asshole, and it's not. I did this to help my people find who killed them, and not only them, but your people as well. I never signed up to be married to a jerk and had to deal with literal shit from his fucking girlfriend." "I know you didn't. That's why you must be the bigger person." Let me think on that." "No thanks." Kane makes her go for a walk and tells her that Crystal was punished and had lost a lot of her privileges. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "I don't know. Does it?" He glanced over at me. "No, it doesn't." "Why not?" I couldn't tell if he was surprised by my answer. I usually made the effort to read his expressions. Today, I didn't feel like putting in the energy. "Because it just gives her more ammunition for the next horrible thing she does to me." He nodded in understanding. "You think she'll retaliate again?" Not a question, a simple statement. "Well, yeah, that seems obvious." Maybe. Maybe not." "Oh, please. She had to know what she was doing when she did it. It's not like she hid it. She did it right in front of practically everyone of importance within the city, including Chris. I somehow have a hard time believing that she cares about any punishment that he could dole out for her." His face turned thoughtful. "Can't argue with that, I suppose. What if we weren't here?" "What do you mean?" His question caught me off guard. "What if we were back at the village?" She says that her and her father know beings that even the things that go bump in the night are terrified of. Kane says that he's telling her to do something in retaliation, but also says that she doesn't have to just stand by. My father wasn't powerful just because of a title. People feared him for a reason, and it was time I gave the people of the city a reason to fear me too. Chapter 12, Blair is living through her first ever hailstorm, and it's really nasty. She was told that there's a good chance that the power would go out and then the lights flicker, and she says that in her village, she learned that there is no such thing as a coincidence. Kane knocks on her door later in the day, and she invites him in to dry off and warm up by the fire, which he accepts. He isn't on shift today, so Blair is really surprised to see him. Now, the reason that he is there is after she had taken his advice and did something about Crystal. She said she might have, and Kane is angry. His grip on my arm relaxed completely and his hands fell away. "You don't know?" he asked in disbelief. "No what? What is going on, Kane?" He looked up at the ceiling, flustered. "I got news tonight that bodies were found at the edge of the city. A team went out there to see who or what it was. The scene was bad." I gave him a dirty look. "And you thought I had something to do with it?" I asked, upset that he would think I was capable of such a thing. "Yes and no. I don't know. Why would you think something like that of me?" His accusation stung deeply. "It's because of who the bodies belong to." "And who would that be?" "You know that girl who helped Crystal at the ball? You mean the ones who dumped all the trash and shit on me?" He just stared at me and then it hit me. "They're dead? I didn't have anything to do with that." Apparently, she is under suspicion because people know how humiliated she was, and also that she's the enemy in Christmas citizens' lives. Also, all she did to get revenge was put some itching powder in their clothes, so like, super badass. They have a back and forth where Kane says that he doesn't trust her completely, but Chris does. Which she says, no shit, this whole thing was his plan, so why would he bring her there to suddenly throw her under the bus? So they end up saying that they'll work together to find the culprit. She tells Kane to meet her back at the apartment at midnight, and he leaves to go get supplies. She quickly packs a bag because she is running. No way was she going to stay and deal with this shit. Then there's another knock at the door, and she's worried that it's Kane, but it's actually Nicholas. He barges in and accuses her of murder. She calls him an idiotic man-child. He gets all butthurt and leaves. She waits a few minutes, then she leaves and makes a run for it. Chapter 13, she is walking through the forest, trying to figure out a plan. She then thinks that maybe if she knew the history of both Halloween and Christmas, then she could figure out who might be hurting their citizens. Then she thinks of someone in particular, though she doesn't say his name. My first thought was Vlad, but I did end up being wrong. She's walking to this person's residence when she feels in her bag, and she finds a portal leaf. She portals to the top of the mountain, and when she tries to find her way down, she ends up falling and slamming her head into the ground. When she wakes up, she is in a cave on top of something very soft. A goat man creature offers her tea, which she accepts. He, of course, then asks how the hell she found her way out there. Portal. Interesting. Not many can accomplish such a task. So I've been told. You're not from this land. What makes you say that? I asked curiously. I was dressed in some of their finest clothing, so I wondered how he could tell. It's the smell, he stated simply before taking in a huge breath of air. Was he smelling me? I don't smell like here. He smiled, the fangs popping out from beneath his lips in a toothy grin. No, you do not. Most people that come from this land smell sweet or piney, sometimes even a mix of both. Maybe even the scent of fresh snow. But not you. You smell like spices, pumpkins, and leaves, and something else familiar from a memory I lost long ago. One that you try to remember, but the more you reach for it, the farther away it seems to be. Well, you have a good nose. You're right, I'm not from here. I'm from Halloween. I see. And what brings you this far from home? I need help. From me? He asked, startled. Yes, from you. I know who you are. And who is that? You're Krampus, right? He nodded slowly, as if wondering where I was going with the conversation. My father is Jack Hollow. I don't know if you know him or not. I am acquainted with him. And you know Kris Kringle, I assume? His face took on a sudden hardness. We are more than acquainted. Okay. Well, there's been some stuff going on between my village and the city, so my father and Kris arranged a marriage between me and his son. What did you do to deserve such a punishment? He asked. I spit my drink back into the cup, not expecting his response. I didn't do anything. Having to marry that boy, you had to have done something. They wanted our lands to be united, and they couldn't apparently figure out another way, right? What has been going on exactly? People are dying. That does tend to happen, this cycle of life for most, he says as if I was incredibly stupid. I'm aware of that cycle. They are dying unnaturally. Someone's murdering them. His eyes went wide as saucers and the cup shook in his hand. He placed it down and shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Murdered? How many? I'm not sure exactly. Apparently it's been going on for quite a while. Kris knew long before he spoke to my father on the matter. Then at least a dozen or so since then, and a couple more a few days ago. I set my cup down nervously, not that he noticed. His eyes had drifted off, staring at something unseen. Haven is meant to be safe. People are not supposed to die like that, not here. That's why it was made, to keep us safe. He tells the story of how magical creatures lived in the human realm, but it was unsafe and that they were able to find the haven. While it was just islands then, the lands began to shift and change in response to the magic. So Christmas became a winter wonderland, Halloween became dark and airy with pumpkins growing, you get the point. Krampus and his brother Santa both lived in Christmas, but Krampus got a lot of shit for just being who he is, so he hid away. His brother would visit, but then it suddenly stopped, so he went to Christmas City, only to find out that his brother died and his son took over, and that is when he learned about the magic transference thing. He stopped visiting because it was just too hard seeing Santa after Santa be replaced, while he never aged. He did venture out there when there was a change in the magic atmosphere, though. A man from your village and a woman from the city had somehow met. Perhaps Haben pushed them together. One thing I've grown to know for certain is that there is an ancient power here, a magic that cannot be controlled or tamed, that has a mind of its own. Doesn't matter how they met, though. The fact was that they did, and they fell in love. They got married, hid away from their respective lands. The people of the city wanted to hunt them down. Same with the people of the village. It was the only thing they could agree on. But they also had friends, those who took them in and hid them well. The way he said the words. You were one of the friends that helped them. He gave me a pointed look. Clever. And yes, I was. I had seen how violent people were to our people. I couldn't stand to let one land pit itself against the other. It made me sick. So yes, I brought them here and gave them shelter, but I didn't expect what would happen. What happened? I asked carefully. She fell pregnant. A baby was born from both lands. When she had the child, the magic here, you could feel it, like energy coming to life and touching you. It was indescribable. Even when we created the rift and tore through the veil, it was nothing compared to this. She did not make it, though. Krampus doesn't know what actually happened to the father, so Clarence had asked about the baby. I'm trying to fix it, and I will find out who's doing this. You have my word. He stared at me unblinking. I believe that, and I will hold you to it. Is the friend the one you gave the baby to still alive, by chance? I knew I was getting my hopes up. There were so few creatures that lived longer than 100 years, but Krampus smiled. Yes, they are. They are? I asked excited. Where? Who? You may have heard whispers of him as Dracula. My eyes went wide. I actually know him as Vlad. The creature gave me a puzzled look. You actually know him? I do, and I know exactly where he lives. I had one more question to ask Krampus. You wouldn't by chance be able to portal me somewhere, would you? A devilish grin split his animal-like face. As a matter of fact, I can. Chapter 14, Blair and Krampus portal to the forest near Halloween. Krampus tells her good luck, but that he won't be coming with her to see Vlad. But not to worry, Vlad's a good guy who will protect her. She thanks him, and just before he portals away, she asks if she can come visit him once this is all over, to which he says he would like that very much. After walking for quite a time, she meets Vlad, who takes her into his castle. He ends up taking her deep into the castle and into his office, since that really feels like the most secure place and no one can listen into their conversation. She asked him questions about what happened when his wife went missing, and he said that everything was normal. His wives went into town, split up to their own thing, then returned together. Two of his wives had various things, but the only thing that Yetta had, the dead one, was a carrot cake. But Blair knows that Halloween doesn't sell carrot cake. Immediately her mind and mine went to Easter. I am suspicious of Esther, and I literally have been since the very first instance that we learned about her, that we see her, but Blair is not. Anyways, she asks about the baby, and all Vlad can say is that he raised a child, but he died, and refuses to elaborate or even give the name of the child. She's like, can you tell me literally anything helpful? He says that he tried, and he sent her a gift, which was the family tree that she received. She says it's weird that he had it, and he's like, what else do I have to do other than keep family trees on people? Can a vampire have a hobby? She explains why she's actually there, about the most recent murders, which Vlad thinks is weird. He wants clarification on if they found it in the city limits or on the border between the lands, but she didn't really pry into the details since she was, trying to prove her innocence, which Vlad is like, I'm sorry, they think you did this? They both now shall have to return to the city, but she actually spots a jar on his shelf, and Vlad says that he has no use for the contents, so he gives them to her. Inside are more than a dozen portal leaves. Chapter 15, she portals to Easter, but Esther isn't home. Her mom is, and she and Blair talk for a little bit, but when Easter does come home, she's not exactly pleased to see Blair, which she thinks is weird, but chalks it up to the stress from long hours at work. When Esther does come sit down to talk, it's a little awkward, but Esther agrees to try and find out who sold Yetta the carrot cake and would send Blair a letter if or when she found out anything. Blair then portals back to her apartment in the city. She finds a good hiding place within the insulation behind her nightstand, which is where she keeps the portal leaves. She is about to go to bed when there's a knock at the door, and to her surprise, it's once again Nicholas. She lets him come in, and he says that he's actually glad that she's back, and that he was there knocking every night, hoping she would return. He says that she is good for the city, and so he is genuinely glad that she's returned. Turns out that him and Chris had a heart-to-heart and now that he understands she's not a murderer. She's weirded out by the sudden change of heart, but he says that he wants to help. These people will be his people one day, and he needs to take care of them. She doesn't trust him, but she still accepts the help. Chapter 16, Kane kicks Blair's door in and rudely wakes her up, and he is pissed that she left him behind. I don't know. Would I have a problem with someone who I thought was my friend telling me that I could help her to come back at a certain time, and then when I did come back, found, I don't know, an empty apartment, and that person that was supposed to be a friend was gone without so much as a note left behind? Now, if we revisit their last conversation, you know the one where he said he didn't know if he could trust her, and he also low-key accused her of murder? But oh, how dare she leave him behind because they're friends. Like, no, dude, you're not friends, but you are kind of a dick the whole time. Nick then shows up and she allows him in again, even offers him some tea. She then asks why he's suddenly not being an asshole. So, how I acted, it wasn't right, and I'm not going to pretend like it was, but I lashed out at you and wanted to be angry with you for this whole situation, which isn't your fault. You didn't ask to come here. My father invited you here, and then your father made sure you came. Yet I've been taking it out on you because I can't exactly take it out on my father or yours. Anyway, I just want to start again. I know I can't change what has already happened, but if we could maybe, put that somewhat behind us, maybe if you don't hold it against me permanently, I can help you with some of the stuff that you're dealing with, that we are dealing with, if that's okay with you. I want to know how you guys would feel, but personally, I would tell him to get bent, because that was so much more than just being a little mad about the situation. He allowed his wife, who obviously didn't like the situation either, but just wanted to be friends, get humiliated and assaulted, and thought it was hilarious. Absolutely not. You would never be my friend. I would be civil, maybe, but I would never trust you, nor would I be able to call you a friend. But maybe that's just me. Anyway, they start to discuss what she found out and how it can be someone from a different land within the Haven that wants to target Halloween and Christmas specifically because no other lands have had casualties. We also find out that Crystal is not Nicholas's girlfriend, which is a crazy thing to say, but also not important. He suggests that maybe it isn't about the land, maybe it's more about the specific people. He says that there's a library on the edge of the city that might contain something helpful. Blair is confused as to why he would willingly be seen with her, and he says it's fine. Even though Crystal has been insane this whole time at just the thought of her and him being in the same room. They then go to the library and to a very secret section that is only accessible by the Kringles and the scholar in charge of making sure that history of Christmas gets recorded. When they are looking over the shelves, Blair notes that all of the shelves are covered in dust, save for in front of a specific book. She, of course, takes the book out, and it belongs to Noel Baba Kringle, the first ever Santa. And this one is exceptionally long, so bear with me. They finally cut up to us, and I'm not sure what to do. We've been running for so long, trying to save the children from the fate of their families, but it never seems enough. For everyone saved, 10 more die, and I'm beginning to lose all hope. My brother still says that there's a way, but I'm not sure there is. We continue to gather with others like us to figure out a plan, something, anything to get rid of the cabal. They're nothing more than hunters, taking our people one by one in the middle of the night, and they're never seen or heard from again. Stories emerge of the awful things they do to you. The words are too gruesome to even put on this paper, but I assure you they are burned into my memory. I hold out that something can be fixed, and soon. The cabal of hunters attacked us last night. Screams erupted. Many were taken. Even now I hear the wails of mothers crying out for their children, who we all know we'll never see again. My brother is beyond angry, as am I. He has said something that sticks with me, and even now the words will not leave my mind. He came to my tent, and he asked me how. How did they find us? We've been so careful. How indeed. I don't know how it was possible, but a scientist has come to us with a mind that defies logic. He told us that there is indeed a way for us to be free, but at a cost, and I have to admit, it is a steep one. My brother is ready to pay it, but I have my hesitations. No one else knows about this but us. We're too afraid of anyone discovering our plans. I write this with a heavy heart, and I do not know how to put my thoughts into words or let the ink dry. It makes everything so real. For months we have kept our plan to ourselves, just me and my brother and the scientist. We had finally discovered a way, and I had grown to accept what must become a necessity. The following day the cabal once again found us. Almost everyone is gone. Who is there really left to save? I have begun thinking, and my thoughts have twisted into dark things. A comment my brother has made consumes me. It was just something simple, but now it stirs a great dread within me. We went so long without being discovered, and yet the day after we announced our plans of freedom, we are brutally attacked. It makes me wonder if there isn't someone among us that answers to the cabal and is destroying us one by one. I had lost hope and nearly myself in the process. I don't even know how I'm still here, but I am. Our greatest fear has been made true. There was a spy among us, someone working for the cabal of hunters in an attempt to remove us one by one. Even now, I do not understand why. Why someone would work against their own people, yet they did with a joyous heart and a madness that I could not explain. Me and my brother Krampus gathered as many as we could from all over the world, but there are so few of us left. The scientists helped us. We tore through the veil, something that kept magic separated from the human realm. In tearing through, we discovered a whole world meant for us and our people, a place away from humans, away from being constantly hunted. We took as many as we could through, but in the end, when the cabal showed up, we realized who our true enemy was. It was not the humans with hearts filled with fear and hatred. The true enemy was those who call us kin but gladly stab us in our backs. I've tried to forgive them as I know I should. I still have not been able to find it within myself to do so. So many were lost because of their actions, and yet, as one, made it through with us. We questioned them intensely. They said they would happily do it all over again, but next time guarantee more blood was spilled. We make sure our realm was secure, and my brother did the dirty deed, removing the streeter from a place we now call Haven. It is my hope that we can put all of this behind us, ease the dark history of our past, and focus solely on a bright new future. Chapter 17, Nicholas found out that all of the victims were travelers, which just means people who traveled to other lands and the human realm. The problem is that the tears in reality, how they get to and from the human realm, are far too great in number, so it's impossible to guard them all. Nicholas's idea is that to seal all but a few and they could be guarded, but it would be hard to get the other lands on board with that. Away from that, he thinks that someone lived in the Haven but then left to live in the human realm. Maybe they were coming back at night to murder travelers and then go back to the human realm. He says that he'll take her to the human realm because he knows someone who might be able to help them find this person, I guess. This man's name is Oscar, who takes him to a shop to talk. There are families that hunted humans or creatures depending on which side of the Terran reality you are. The families are not known because the information or practice is passed down strictly to those family members that can be trusted. Blair then asks about the Cabal, and Oscar freaks out, basically saying that any information about the group should be burned and that she'd be hunted for sport if they found out she knew about them. Chapter 18, Nick takes her out to get dinner, and then they go to a hotel and talk about what they learned. Really, they didn't know where to go from there, and they talked a little bit about their family expectations they both faced. He said that a big reason he had a change of heart was because of those closest to Blair, her guards, and even his father had spoken so highly about her, and that he realized that they were right. He then goes to his bedroom, and she stays at the table for a moment, but then he knocks on her door. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I figured might as well do it now." I gave him a puzzled look. He closed the gap between us. His hands came up on either side of my face as his lips pressed against mine. My breath caught as a spark of electricity passed from my lips and spread across my body. I pulled away and glanced up at him. He was staring at me with a clarity like he'd never seen anything in his life before now. His pale white hair brushed against my forehead ever so lightly. The pad of his thumb went across my bottom lip before he again pressed his lips to mine, but this time the kiss deepened. His arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me in tighter to him. My hands reached out, pulling him towards me. I wasn't sure how long the kiss lasted. Everything fell away, and the imaginary fireworks were bursting around us. His hands slid down across my curves, and I let out a small moan. We were startled out of the moment when a loud, shattering sound came from the living room. We jumped and looked towards the door. Another ear-splitting noise sounded, and then the hotel room door busted open. I hate this. I truly hate this. There is no character development. He just changed overnight, and now they're gonna be together, and I hate it. Anyway, people break into the room and they have to escape. They fight masked people and then they make it to the stairwell. "Keep going," I urged. But as I took my next step, Nick leaned over, his hand gripped the handrail tightly, and fear spiked through me. "What's happening? Are you okay?" I grabbed his shoulders, trying to get him to look at me, but his eyes were glazed over, focused on something I couldn't see. "Nick? Nick!" I yelled in a panic. "What's happening?" And then I felt it. A hot burning sensation under my fingertips as his skin became warm to the touch and sparkling magic brightened his flesh. Momentarily, I could feel the rush of powerful magic entering his body, and then it was gone. His eyes came back into focus. Tears slipped out, running down his face. My father is dead. Chapter 19, they go back to Blair's apartment. Elms came in to take care of Nick, who was absolutely inconsolable. Kane stayed to help Blair with everything, and they got close, and he would hold her through her nightmares. And honestly, I love that so much better than her and Nick. But I know he isn't a love interest, whatever. After a week, they are holding the funeral, and as is customary, they also find out here that Chris was murdered in his sleep, but they don't know by who. She is wearing black, as is customary for funerals and Halloween, but white is customary in Christmas. Kane tells her that Chris would have wanted her to stay true to her roots, so she wears black. At the funeral, she says her goodbyes and watches as everyone else does too. They then wait for Nick to show up, since he has to give at least some kind of speech about, about his father and then how he's going to step up, but he's late. Also to note, Vlad, Jack, and Amelia are there as well. Nick finally arrives, drunk, says some stupid shit, and then is dragged out. Blair then steps up and says some words about Chris, and it's very lovely. She then goes back to her apartment, and then instead of a new chapter, we just get a paragraph break, and we get Nick's perspective on things. He is apparently in love with Blair, which is just stupid, and there's no reason for the sudden switch up other than the author wants them to be together. He feels like a disappointment and he decides to make a change, but then Crystal comes in. I'm serious, Crystal. I want to be left alone. Can't you see I'm grieving? I see it, I just don't understand it. I lost my father. Very true, but you gained something in return. I'd rather have my father. I can't say I understand that feeling. I'd much rather have power than a father. You don't even know your father. Ouch. Someone is snippy. No, I don't. But there were so many possibilities. I suppose if I went through the effort, I could figure it out. But who really cares? I gave her a dark look, not wanting her here. I wanted to get alcohol and drugs out of my system. I wanted to see Blair, to apologize and set things right. Crystal squatted down and turned her neck, almost like a bird watching its prey. What are you thinking about? She asked. That I'm done with this? No more. I don't want to be like this. Like what? This. You know exactly what I mean. No more the drinking and the other stuff. I need to start taking things seriously. Being serious? That would be true, but not in the way you think. I admire your ambition of wanting to put your partying behind you, but unfortunately we can't have that just yet. We? I need you to be yourself, your old self, not the sad new self. It's necessary for the future of Christmas, and I'd really like it if you didn't try to fight it, because fighting only makes me have to use more dust, and then it makes you all useless again. What the fuck are you talking about? I asked. Her response was a breath of pink powder blown into my face. I breathed in, my eyes widening as the LP-31 worked its way into my bloodstream. I wanted to scream, I wanted to do anything, but I couldn't. And as the world faded and my body grew heavy, once more in the distance, I could hear her voice. Now that's better, isn't it? The clicking of high heels left the room as I laid on my side, my eyes fixed to the wall. Drill began to puddle on the floor. Once again, I was floating. All the pain and memories of what I'd lost disappeared. Chapter 20, we're back at the apartment, and Jack and Amelia have arrived. Jack tells her that she has to attend a meeting with the leaders of the land since Nick is in no shape to attend, and she is Mrs. Kringle. But she is supposed to be there as a neutral, or at least as much as is possible, and she certainly can't say anything about the murders or what she learned in the human realm. Amelia tells her Kane is hot, privately, of course, which kind of sets him up as a potential love interest, which I love. But I also just can't help but feel like the author is going to force Blair and Nick together in the end. They go to the meeting, which Nick does not attend, of course. Edward, the Easter Bunny, tries to say some shit that it's against the rule to have Blair represent Christmas, but as she is literally Santa's wife, the rest of them tell him to shut up. Edward keeps being weird, though. Also, Nick does finally show up, very drunk. Or maybe they just think they're doing the right thing, Edward said. I mean, look at them. They're getting away with all of this. That doesn't really speak to them being cowards, now does it? I couldn't help myself. You seem to know a lot about these people. Is there something you wish to share with the rest of us? I asked Edward directly. Everyone's eyes went to him, and the dark look came over his face. Are you accusing me of something? I'm not accusing you of anything. Merely asking a question. One that you haven't answered. Yet you continue to stick up for these people, claiming they're not the cowards we think them to be. Seems strange to defend people who are senselessly murdering in Haven, unless you have a reason why you're doing it. Before he was able to answer, the door behind me flew open. My father looked back, annoyed. We're in a meeting. I looked as well. It was Winter, her face flushed, and she looked at me with sadness in her gaze. She quickly came to Kane and whispered in his ear, then his face changed too. He came close to me, his lips brushing my ear. There's been another murder, but this one's in the human realm. I looked at him confused. What does that matter? It's your sister. Chapter 21, they go to the human realm to verify that it is true, and it is. Blair sees Amelia's body. Truly, it is sad and the details are not important. What is important is that Blair finds something near her sister's body. I gave her lifeless form one last look before I stood up, but my legs had lost their circulation and I fell. My chest dipped into a puddle of dirty water. Great, I whispered, and I looked up and over. Wait a minute. I peeked back under the dumpster. Something had caught my eye, something that did not belong. I glanced back at the end of the alley. The men were focused solely on each other. I scooted over and reached as far as I could underneath, grabbing the palm-sized object easily and pulling it from its hiding spot. I opened my hand and stared down at the contents. Lemony yellow made up the pastel design, one that was dotted with a few shades of blue. My hand shook uncontrollably, and something inside me broke as I held the Easter egg in my hand. That's how the book ends. and I'm mad. Now that was some grade A bullshit, and now I have to read the second book to, know what happens at the end, because, like, it's not good, but I have to know. Overall, I don't love this book. The writing is okay, but clunky at times, and the dialogue just doesn't work for me. It is, I will say, it is more realistic as to how these conversations would really go, because not everyone can talk on the fly, but I don't want that level of realism. I want Blair to be a badass who can tear people down with her words, but she just isn't. Also, she was built up to be this uber powerful person, and that power will come into play, and that she'll show people not to mess with her, but she literally never does. The only time she uses magic is the portal leaves, and when Kane tells her to be a little dirty and use Halloween Village tactics, she uses fucking itching powder. Ooh, I'm terrified, Blair. Please don't be so scary. It was overall just too much telling and no showing. Also, I just hate that we know that Blair and Nick are gonna end up together, even though Kane is a better match and they're like kind of cute together, and they also low-key both like each other. Also, Nick. He changes overnight for no reason. Again, telling us, not showing us any type of character growth. He just suddenly isn't an ass and is in love with her? Nope, absolutely not. I get it, the author wanted to do an enemies to lover, but that doesn't work if the character doesn't grow and instead just has a sudden change of heart. The villain was also too obvious. It's Esther. I knew that she was going to be related or just be the villain since the first time we met her, and she's described as acting out of the ordinary. But everything just kept pointing to her, and so the egg reveal isn't even that big. I will say, I was only half expecting something to happen to Amelia, but that then brings up the question, does Blair have to stay in Christmas? She's the wife of Santa, but she's also now the only heir to Halloween. So I think it matters more for her to be in Halloween, which I think would work out great, because that means that she could be home, away from Nick, and it would also make sense, for Kane to follow along, because, he has to keep her safe if she's away from Christmas. But I have a feeling that's not the direction that the author's going to go in. I also, as I said at the beginning, I just wish that the author did not rely on the brand name Pumpkin King to sell the book. Genuinely, I didn't see that before I picked up the book, so I was immediately annoyed when I read the first chapter and my man Jack was there, which would have been fine, not the biggest deal, had it actually been Jack. This was a new character who held no resemblance to the Nightmare character, but we aren't told this to trick us into reading more. It was cheap, and I didn't appreciate it. Especially when we had no physical description that would make us think it was anyone but the Skeleton King himself. But given that they are totally normal human characters, it would mean that nowhere in the lineage was Jack Skellington a family member. I just don't like it, and if you can't sell a book based on your own characters, that's something you need to work on before you publish. I will say, I like Blair, I liked Chris, I like Kane, and I love Krampus and Vlad. Everyone else kind of sucks, and above all else, Nicholas is the worst character, and there is no redeeming him, in my mind, at least, but the author is sure trying her hardest to do it without any of the actual work that goes into it. Also, a few notes aside from the book itself that I want to touch on. One, can we talk about how someone stole my review? Like, I want to say I don't care. I think it's kind of funny, but it was so familiar that it made me just, pause. I literally thought it was my comment at first, and I was all like, I don't remember writing it like that. I also say that I don't care, but, I do, because I put in the work to write that review, and I write so many different reviews on the different sites so that it's not, exactly the same. Because, some require no spoilers, some allow you to have spoilers, that kind of stuff. But, I put in work for that, and then somebody else just stole my comment without putting in the work. So I want to read that comment, but just so you guys are aware, Goodreads has already removed the review. So you will not be able to find it on there. I'll also read you what my review, I should probably read you my review first. My review. I don't like this at all. Let's start with the Jack Skellington fake out. Jack in this story is not that Jack. The Pumpkin King for this book is a man named Jack Hollow. I genuinely prefer to have an original character in this case. I was disappointed to piggyback off of an established character, but I wasn't any happier when it was revealed that it was Jack Hollow. He's not described until after we know he isn't Skellington, which I can only assume is intentional to trick people into reading along because they were drawn in by the Nightmare character. The villain is also obvious, won't spoil it for those who haven't read it yet, but I called it from the literal first interaction we have with this character. But it's even worse when the book ends with the calling card that could be from no other character. I'm fine with a cliffhanger, but this was just a nothing burger of a reveal. Then the review that was removed. Let's start with the Jack Skellington fake out. Early on, we're led to believe that the Pumpkin King might actually be that Pumpkin King, Jack Skellington, but he's not. The Jack in this story is Jack Hollow, a completely different character. Honestly, I would have preferred if the book had just introduced him as an original from the start. It felt a bit manipulative to lean on the cultural cache of The Nightmare Before Christmas to draw readers in, only to reveal later that this Jack is someone else entirely. The delay in describing him until after they reveal seemed very intentional and left me feeling mildly tricked rather than intrigued. As for the villain, I won't spoil anything for new readers, but it's painfully obvious from their first appearance who's behind it all. The supposed twist at the end doesn't land, and the mysterious calling card meant to set up a cliffhanger is so on the nose it strips away any tension. What could have been a fun aha moment ends up being a bit of a nothing burger. So, it's literally just my review, which sucked, but I guess that is what it is. I should also say, because this annoyed me, more than that, actually, is the author is removing reviews that she doesn't like. Because we got the book for free as an ARC reader through Book Sirens, it means that our reviews on sites like Amazon do not have a verified purchase tag on them, which is how the reviews are able to be removed. Now, my review is 3 stars on all platforms, minus Storygraph, where it's a 2.5. That is a mid review. Not good, not bad, nothing to get your panties in a twist about. Unless you're this author, of course. Now, I don't generally post reviews on Amazon in general, but on Book Sirens, the author can ask that reviews be posted on specific sites and on several if they choose to. Obviously, it's our choice as a reviewer to choose where we post and how much we post or what we post, but personally, if they request Amazon, I'm happy to post my review on there as well. So, I did that with this book, as requested by the author. But the author used the fact that they gave the readers the book for free to police the Amazon reviews. So I bought the book myself for $1.99 for anybody interested. Also, it's on Kindle Unlimited. But if you read it on Kindle Unlimited, you can't post a review. Well, you can post a review. You can't post a review. So here's exactly the timeline of how I did this. I did the ARC. I posted a review on Amazon. It got approved. The review site shows that it was verified. And then it got removed because I didn't buy the book. So then I was like, okay, Kindle Unlimited. And then I posted my review again. That one got removed because I didn't have the verified purchase tag. Because apparently that's how it works with Kindle Unlimited. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. So then I bought it for $1.99. And I posted my review. So for anybody interested, my review is up on Amazon. And it even says, hey, authors removing reviews.
Okay, just a quick editor's note here. I didn't say it in this video, but please don't send hate to this author. This review is strictly for other readers. I also want to say do not post a review if you haven't read the book. Specifically, I am not tagging the author because this isn't for her. It's about the book. I don't know if she will try to get this review removed, but given that the other reviews have been removed, there is a chance. Also, want to say specifically, I can't know 100% who reported my review, but given that it was verified by Book Sirens and all of my other ARC reviews are still up, it is incredibly likely that either the author or her team reported it and had it removed because it didn't have that verified tag for a purchase.
It's just unfortunate the author is doing this because I really like the concept and the words on the page are fine. It's just the author wanted to skip the parts that mattered, like character development, and it just felt rushed and sloppy. But had she taken the time to work into it, it would have been amazing because the writing itself is fine. And that is all that I have for you today. I'm not happy with this one. Obviously, I was just so genuinely excited because the concept is fantastic and I love the idea of all these different lands. It's Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think that's where my thing is that I love Nightmare. It is my absolute favorite movie. And obviously that's not a secret, but the author obviously likes Nightmare Before Christmas too. Took this idea that the realms are interconnected, that it's this whole thing that's away from like the humans, and that's fine. I'm sure it's not an original idea. I'm sure there are plenty of other stuff. But also, you're allowed to build off of ideas. You're allowed to take inspiration from different stuff. However, if you're going to take inspiration, do not try to pretend that it is what it isn't. If you like the idea of Nightmare Before Christmas, that is fabulous. Establish right off the bat that you are not doing something that is precisely Nightmare related, or that is not precisely Nightmare Before Christmas at all. Because you can like Jack Skellington. You can like that whole like interconnected realms. The Haven was fine. I understand that she pulled reference from Nightmare, but the Haven itself was fine. That's a totally fine reference because she made it her own. But pretending that the Pumpkin King or that Jack or the Skeleton King was Jack Skellington because you needed to trick your readers into actually reading your shit book, not okay. We don't need to do that because that is I don't want to say plagiarism. I don't want to say theft, but it's cheap. It's not okay. If you're not creative, say that. Say that. Don't try to trick people. Don't lie. Don't do this shit. And it's not even like you can say, oh, well, you care a lot because it's Nightmare. I don't. If it was like anything that you are taking directly from something else, something known because you can't write, I'm going to have an issue with it. I just happen to know Nightmare like the back of my hand. So yeah, I don't love this. The only reason I would read the next one is to see how the author chooses to wrap it up. But at the same time, as this book was over 300 pages, I think it's like 336, I think, if I remember off the top of my head correctly. That's a lot of pages for you to get maybe halfway through a story. Like, I get, like, on my shelf right now, I own It. I own It by Stephen King. It's over 1,000 pages long. But it just is what it is. It's not trying to be something else by making 6 different books tell one story. It's fine if they're interconnected, but I don't need 2 books to finish one story. Cliffhangers are one thing. Whenever you set it up as like, oh, it could be, I think that's how a cliffhanger does well in a book. In a show, you kind of have to push cliffhangers because it's, how series get finished or how series, get picked up or seasons get picked up. But in a book, I don't want to have to wait 2 years for the next book to come out for you to finish the story that you only got halfway through. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Like, I'm fine with cliffhangers or being like, ooh, I wonder what happens next. Or like, maybe it'll lead into something else. Or like, suddenly there are murders in Easter, whatever like that. It's just, I'm interested to see what like crystals and shit is because obviously it's not just Easter if crystals also mean fucking weird. But overall, I'm just not happy. Overall, just not happy. But yeah, so that's all that I have for you today. Super petty. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm petty whenever it came to the author review thing. I'll put on the screen, I'll probably put in my thumbnail too, what the Amazon review is. Where it said authors removing reviews. Because I have no problem being petty. You wanna go low? I'll go lower. I have no problem with that. But, let me see what I have coming up for y'all. Okay, so looks like next is novellas that feel like November, which actually, so I have written half a script for it. I'm wearing shorts. It kind of looks like I'm not wearing pants. I'm sorry. I have read so far The Ballad of Black Tom, which I really liked. I'm gonna be honest, I do highly recommend that one, but I will tell you guys about that obviously in the next video. But I really like that one. The other one that I was going to read, I started reading it, don't know if I'll finish it, is Every Heart a Doorway. It's part of a series. I think it's book 1 of 10. And I like it. I think it's well written. My problem is it's hard for me to articulate in a way that I think gives the story justice what is happening. Because like the chapters are so lyrical and the prose is just so poetic that I don't feel like I'm able to do it justice by just giving you guys a summary of the chapters or even a beat by beat because so much is happening and it makes more sense to hear it from the characters and just read the book. So that's another one that I recommend you read. But I think I'm giving up on trying to review it, or at least review it on here. I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna review it, whatever. So I actually switched to a different book. And I said novellas that feel like November. However, this one is November specific. And it's I Bought a Haunted Thanksgiving Table. It's another novella, which it's actually really interesting because the way that the author intends you to read it is like an advent calendar, but leading up to Thanksgiving. You read one chapter every day. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to read it so that I can review it for you guys. But I thought that was a really interesting idea. And apparently, 25 Days, I'm forgetting his name, something Jacobson, the author said it's something similar to that, which I actually have on my list for Bookmas for next month. So I thought that was really interesting. So I'm going to do that book and then I'm going to review this one as well. So that's actually changed. Not that anybody knew. I had no reason to explain that to you. Nobody knew what I was doing. But there, now you get it. That'll be the next book. I'm gonna lose my mind. That'll be next video out. But this video is so long. I apologize. So I'm gonna end it here. You have to tell me what you think, if you would read it. Have you read it? What's your opinion on authors removing reviews? Because I understand in some cases that if you get a lot of negative reviews from people that you cannot verify read the book, then yeah, you're gonna want to remove it. But if you're asking me to review it, and you're like, hey, I know that I gave you this book for free, can you review it on Amazon? And then you're using that as a way to remove reviews, I think that's cheap. That's not okay. But what's your guys' opinion on that? Because I'm sure other people disagree and think it's the right of the author to remove reviews that they cannot verify. But yeah, beyond that, I appreciate you guys sitting here and listening to me rant. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.